Recording in progress.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Qathet Regional District Committee of the Whole meeting for August the 26th, 2026. And I'll acknowledge that the meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of Tla'amin Nation. Directors, you have the agenda in front of you. Could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated? Director Ball, Director Elliott, any discussion? All in favor? Adoption of the minutes of July the 8th, and we all have vivid memory of that meeting. Seemed like just yesterday. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, a motion to adopt, please. Director Fall, Director Brander, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Presentations. So we have our quarterly fire department presentations. And today I welcome Bill Ashworth from Malaspina and Doug Corbett, Chief for Savary. So Chief Ashworth, would you like to go first or up here and please join us up here? And we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here and what we're up to. We've had this is our previous quarter from April 1st to June 30th. It was quite busy. We had a lot of calls, but we had a lot of training as well. We got 23 volunteers that attended at least one training session. We got 12 volunteers above 60% of training. We're trying to bring that number up. We had 13 fire practices and 9 other training events, including fire officer training. Several officers have started their fire officer training program. I attended the Fire Chiefs Association of BC conference in Victoria this year. And that was a valuable conference and gained a lot of input from that. We put on an auto extrication course. We cut up about a dozen cars. We had lots donated. That was done at Augusta Recycling where we did the damage. So that was very good. We had a good turnout for that. We had a low angle rescue. We hadn't done that in a few years, and so that was good to do. We had pretty good attendance, and we opened that up to Pal River as well. We had the freedom of information and privacy training. We had S100 and 185 wildland training, which was well attended. We put on a first responder course. We've had WMIS renewed by everyone who needed it. And we had some elementary school public education. So we're pretty busy. We've had 3 safety committees with safety committee meetings with an average of 4 volunteers per meeting, and we've had 3 officer meetings with an average of 6 officers. Our incident report, we had 72 incidents in that time frame, with an average of 4 volunteers per incident. We had 56 first responders or ambulance assists, 3 motor vehicle incidents, 2 unclassified fires, 6 structure fires, which is quite a bit for that time period. 2 public service, 2 rescue and safety, 1 investigation, and 1 false alarm. So we were very active for that time period, and that's where we're at on that report.
Thank you very much, Chief. Hang on a second. There may be questions around this table for you, so I'll throw it open to Director Lennox.
Thanks. I'm sure Director Gisborne and others have questions. Thanks, Chief. Really just wanted to give you a compliment around your data around safety committees, right? You guys put some work into making sure they're consistent and regular. Really a question, do you get value out of them, or are your firefighters reporting incidents and you're being able to deal with them? That's the intent of your committee, I think.
The committee is to report incidents, but it's also to prevent them, right? So there's a lot of action taken around that we're safe around the hall, that we're safe on calls, that if there's any concerns, they get addressed. And that has had a benefit for sure. We've had no medical incidents on calls or at training.
Nice.
In quite some time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Gisborne.
First of all, I see 12 at 60% turnout. I think, what was it, maybe a year ago, I think it was at 9. So that's good news to see that it's going upwards. And I know we're not where we want to, but do you think it's trending in the right direction, or is it kind of plateauing, or is it a seasonal thing?
It's trending in the right direction, and the people that are committed to attending are committed, right? And that is typical. And we're kind of just doing seems like a bit of a changing of the guard, and that is a transitional period. It does take some time. We also have a recruit program starting up in September, and I believe we did a mail out to our area of the regional district. And so we have a few people have responded so far, but that drive will go on through September.
Yeah, good. The other one was the elementary school, engagement. I presume you're referring to Kelly Creek.
Yes.
Have you considered like Edgehill or some of the other schools that they may not be in our service area, but they do have students that come from our service area?
Yes, but not as much. We generally associate with Kelly Creek School. We've always had a lot of participation. We do the fireworks at Halloween with them, and we set them off, and it's a good time. And it's the closest school. We haven't. I guess it would be something more for Powell River to do, and I do think that they do their public service reach outs to the elementary schools in the district.
Okay. And then my last question is Superior Tanker Shuttle servicing. And I know there was some discussion over the last several months or years about are we going to maintain that certification? Do we still have that certification? How is that progressing?
A good question. So absolutely, we're still in compliance, and our qualifications are there, and we've maintained our training, and we've been continuously proving it. I think it's in another 2 years, we'll have the actual agency representative come down, and we'll prove it again. But we have a time frame where we have to continue it, but we self-report.
Okay, so that's good news, because I know insurance is top of mind for a lot of folks when it comes to fire protection and that Superior
We're
tank.
still fully capable of executing that Superior shuttle.
Wonderful. And as always, if you need water, I got lots. Those are my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Director Gisborne. I'm not seeing any further. Oh, okay. We have further questions, Director Southcott.
Hey, Chair. It's a pretty impressive list of the things that you're doing. It caused me to wonder, on average, how many evenings or how many days out of the month, totally aside from all the calls that you're doing, the hall is being utilized. Kind of, in what you described, it's hard to imagine how anybody actually has time to do anything but what you do.
The hall is constantly utilized. That's not including any of our social events, but our meetings are taking place there. Our training takes place there. We have dedicated over that 3-month period. I think we dedicated 6 weekends entirely at the hall for training, as well as helping our recruits get caught up and up to speed for their evaluations to progress to the next level.
Really impressive.
So it's a good commitment I have a really good crew working there right now, and they're really dedicated, and they're the ones that are doing it. I'm just helping out, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. It takes leadership to make all that stuff happen. So thank you for your report, Chief, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me. Happy with that. As always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Helps me keep
And now I'd like to welcome Chief Doug Corbett from Savary, who is joining us online. Chief Corbett, there you are. We look forward to your presentation. Please go ahead. We can't hear you. You're
yeah, I haven't said anything yet.
Good, I haven't missed anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Until he gets going, eh, Doug?
Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Okay, so when last time I was with you, I was sharing some of our high-level goals, focusing on readiness for firefighting, readiness for first responders, and readiness for evacuation. And we were working on some of the holes that we have identified certainly in the evacuation area, we had done very, very little. So we had to do some work there. And then the idea of accident and fire mitigation. The only way we could deal with that was, of course, get involved with more public awareness. So we started focusing on all these areas. So in public awareness, we had a booth at the Savary market. Pretty much every week the market was running. And so at that market, we were running short seminars on what happens when somebody puts in a 911 call, seminars on how to use a fire extinguisher. So various things were happening regularly at those sessions. And we focused a lot on the community notification system, signing up, getting people to sign up for the system. When we started this process, there's about 50 people had signed up. We're now pushing up around 300 people.
Oh.
And we're probably over the next 4 months, we're pushing that to 350, and into next year, 400 people on the community notification system, which gives us an ability to communicate to people if there is an evacuation event. We ran a 2-hour evacuation workshop. Jesse McDonald came over and we had 40 people attend that event. It was quite well attended. Our hall was completely packed with people. And we distributed about 800 fridge magnets. I think I mentioned this before, but these fridge magnets, we're hoping to get on all 1,200 fridges there are in Savary. And it allows somebody to scan a QR code and immediately brought to these three buttons. One was submit a burn pile notification. So now we've given people the mechanism to communicate if they're going to have a burn pile. And the message comes directly to me, and then I send them back a note saying that we have it registered, and we give them notification on how to be careful with what they're doing. And they can click the other button for register for community notification system, and all the current fire restriction information is there. Sorry about that. So here's a picture of our booth and we had constant activity going on at this booth. People were very interested to see us there. This is a image of us doing a demonstration about what happens when you call 911. And we had 2 of these sessions, and probably about 60 to 80 people were involved. And then lastly, here is something to do with, just for your information, as I believe you're going to be hearing about this, where people are, maybe delegates will want to come to Savary Island or the qathet district to see what we're doing on fire mitigation. So we have now got an extra layer of smoke fire surveillance that doesn't sleep, and it operates 24/7. These are all the sensors that are installed on the island presently. So this is no cost to the QRD, and this is monitored and reported to the ECOM 911 system by a third party. So nothing has changed from a point of view of the fire department. We get called out with 911 call, but it could have come from an electronic system or a person. And this is an image with Savary Island in the middle of the cameras that are aiming at Savary, and this brownish area is the area of all the area that is covered by those cameras. So that's the overview of what we've been doing mostly. I can give you a bunch of statistics that happened 3 months ago. We have a roster of 36 people, volunteers. 12 volunteers attended about 60% of the training. We've had trained 24 fire and FR practices and 7 other training events. And we've run about 7 officers meetings to coordinate all this. So, any questions?
Thank you, Chief. director is Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. I always thank you every time I see you, but it's on purpose because I mean it. Honestly, great slide deck. You stole a little thunder. The fridge magnets are cool. I did take one when I was on Savary there last time, and my grandson has it somewhere in his room now. But
Supposed to be on the fridge.
yeah, well, maybe, yeah, I can't find it, but, you know, I think it's like, it explains, the, you know, proactive work that you're doing just as a small group, with our staff, right, helping you out in the background. And it's a unique little situation on Savary. People may not know about the requirement to register your burns, right? It's a little bit different in our areas, right? And Savary has this requirement, and so that effort goes a long ways to say, oh yeah, like actually people following through, and we don't have erroneous fire calls and save your resources. So thanks for that one. I like that one. The new, you know, I took notes on the need for evacuation, you know, improvement, I guess, capacity and resilience. So I think, you know, we know that, and that's definitely, I agree with that. So I'll try to help definitely with that. I was going to ask you about the new truck. I saw one picture, our nice big yellow new truck. How is it performing? It's been a little while, I think, 3 months.
We just put it, yeah, it's been a little while, but because of issues around getting training, it's only been put into service 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's now fully in service. We were using it as a showpiece at the market.
Yeah.
And
lots of
getting their
fingerprints.
pictures taken. We had young children sitting in the fire seat getting their pictures taken.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Hopefully that goes smooth. And then SenseNet, very interesting. Again, I'm in the loop, right? Thank you for keeping me up to speed with your group and the hard work. Like, again, they made the points about raising the money and they're moving quick. I have the benefit also of seeing a preliminary report from the SenseNet group that hopefully one day gets distributed, and it's super cool. The technology is like, just like you said, it's not invasive, but it, you know, poof, there's a smoke, this camera, see, it's pretty kind of straightforward and allows humans to then respond. And then I also thought it was interesting as the AI technology gathers the products of combustion on those sensors, that's all it's doing is sniffing and learning the components of what's in the smoke. Think about what I'm saying. It can tell what's in the smoke. So I'll leave you with that one. But I just thought, no, seriously, right? Like, what do we, you know? But again, this technology is also going to be talked about at our upcoming UBCM conference, right? This is province-wide. We're again at the tip of the spear here. So thanks. It's good.
Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to the other directors seeing some.
Okay, thanks, Director Lennox. Are there other questions for the chief? Director Brander?
Yeah, thanks. I got a quick one. So you had that interesting slide up there about the cameras and how they assess not just whatever's on Savary, but also the mainland and as far away as Cortez or Vancouver Island. What
Yes.
does the system do when it picks up smoke from, say, the mainland, from over here? Does it also send those calls in? Alert?
Yeah, it does. The ones we actually, there was a critical alarm, for example, that smoke alarm came from Vancouver Island, and it was seen west of Savary Island. So, and there was alarms generated by that, but of course it never came to us as a general alarm because it was happening on Vancouver Island. But it did sense it, and those alarms, with cooperation for some of the areas, for example, I think Hernando is quite interested in getting information from those cameras. So we would look at working with them and giving them the alarms directly. As far as have they seen any on the mainland, I'm not sure actually. I don't remember seeing any, because the cameras weren't right now. We're only panning to Savary, and then they could see Vancouver Island, but they weren't seeing the mainland during that scan. But that's the scan we can. What I showed you is the scans that can be done with the existing cameras.
Okay, thank you.
The question, Director Fall.
Just briefly, and thank you for the presentation. Just to say, you know, that I congratulate you on being like early adopters of this. I think of the fire and smoke detection. I think it's pretty clear, given where we're headed with increasing fire seasons and so on, that early detection of fires is the future. That's something where there's a huge opportunity to improve. And I think it's fantastic that Savary Island's doing that. I look forward to being able to benefit Lasqueti for that. We can't raise the kind of funds that you were able to raise and figure it out, but I mean, you're figuring out all the wrinkles, and then hopefully the province picks up too and says this is actually important, because detecting fires as early as possible is how you get them out. I mean, when the fires get to be, we see that all across the province. If the fire is small, the chance of getting it out is higher, then drops off very quickly the longer that it's burning. So I just wanted to congratulate you, and just to say, you know, I think I look forward to the ability to use something similar, adopt this kind of early detection elsewhere in the regional district.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's one thing about the early fire detection, what I've noticed is it does do that because it's electronics. But the most important piece of it is monitoring 24/7. So we have, as far as eyes go with people go, we have a second layer of detection. And that, I mean, people go to bed, we don't get, they don't find out about the fire for a long time. So just having that whole second layer gives us that sense of security.
Any other questions? Director Gasso?
Yeah, just a quick detail. It looked to me like there was about 100 sensors on the island. Is
Yes.
That's
101 or 100, yeah, it's 100 to 101, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And those are measuring gases. Like there's 27 different gases. There was a fire a shed fire that happened, created by a generator that caught on fire, and the sensor about 30-40 feet away from it picked up that there was plastics burning. And of course, when plastics are burning, you know it's not a wood stove burning. And also should tell you that we had, right through the whole winter and spring, when wood stoves were being used, we never got one false alarm. So a lot of smoke coming out of those areas. So the AI was smart enough to make that happen. And we did get 2 alarms that we were asked to go out and investigate. One was a propane fire, and behind the propane fire was French doors with glass facing out towards Lund. And the propane fire was amplified in the glass. So that we got a false alarm. We got an alarm for that, and we went out and checked it. Of course, hopefully the AI now steps in, and when they sees that event again, it wouldn't cause a problem. The other one was a flare put off by the Coast Guard.
Oh yeah.
And they picked up the flare and the smoke trail. We had to investigate that one also.
Yeah, thank you. Just I'm a mariner, you know, amateur mariner, and of course we're required to carry flares. So does that mean that if a flare was set off in the area that the cameras are walking from a boat in distress, or even a kayak, for example, because kayakers often carry flares as well, is that likely to be picked up by the system?
Yes, so right now it would be picked up by the system. Then a person would look at it and say it's not a threat to Savary, and that would be the end of it. But what you're asking is very doable. It would simply be some programming, and we would pick up anything in the Sailor's Sea that we can see with the cameras that would be a flare, and that could be reported through. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Seeing no hands, Chief Corbett and Chief Ashworth, thank you very much for your presentations. Great to hear from you. So
thank you.
Good luck going forward. Coming up next is our delegation, registered delegation from Ms. Webster, who's no stranger to us, and we welcome you. Yes, we thank them. Yeah, just the 2 of them. Yeah, there's just the 2 of them today. So welcome, Ms. Webster.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here today, especially after Doug
Placemats are.
spoken. Yes.
Take one, pass it down, right? Just like school.
You know.
He knows we're messy eaters. Thank you.
Sure they get off. Have water.
Another thing my grandson has in his.
That's
You got a lock on his boot. One way.
Yeah.
These are lovely. Oh no, you got enough there. Perfect. Okay. Okay, thank you. Wonderful to be here today. And I knew that I spoke to the fire chief yesterday, actually. He said, yes, I'm going to be at the meeting tomorrow too. And I said, okay, well, that's great. Because a little bit of what I talk about today will be SenseNet, because we were very much involved in the process and developing, and especially in raising the funds for that. My name's Liz Webster, and I'm the executive director of the Land Trust. I was one of the founders of the Land Trust back in 1997, and I've served as the executive director for 26 years. And also today with us, how did we get up the other people? Oh, I'm sorry. We have Walter. We have Walter Reimann, who is our treasurer, and Braden Hutchins, who is our secretary. And Braden is fairly new to the board, and Walter has been on the board for 6 or 7 years now. And so he looks after the money. So we're really happy to be here today. And what we really want to talk about is renewing our partnership for land conservation and education on Savary Island. And I want to start with just a short story, but something that maybe directors here are not aware of. The Savary Island Land Trust actually started on August the 22nd, 1995, at the Regional District public hearing at Duck Bay on Savary Island under the fir trees. This is before we even had one fire department. One fire hall, we now have 3. That's where it started. And the reason it started there was because the board was bringing forward a bylaw to subdivide the heart of Savary into a 90-unit gated community. And this drew a lot of attention from the community. Anyhow, there was a lot of opposition. And the reason I want to start with that is because this body made the right choice after that hearing. You withdrew the bylaw. So that land did not get subdivided. And that enabled us the opportunity to save it, working collaboratively with many people and agencies. So that's our really big win that we have done and we've done other things, but that's a big one. And I just wanted to let you know that you were a part of that. And the other thing that this body did was, and I can't remember the year, but it was Director Brabazon who brought forward a development permit for the heart of Savary. The heart of Savary is the big piece in the middle on your map there. And Director Brabazon brought this forward. He asked me if we would help, and I said absolutely. And we worked hand in hand with him for about 6 months to get a development permit on District Lot 1375. I can tell you that that was absolutely critical when the negotiations for acquiring that land happened. So thank you. You made a really good decision there as well. What I want to talk about today are things that are impossible that our community has made possible. And one of the ones is what SenseNet, what you heard from Doug, but also about the heart of Savary. So let's, my girl, and okay. We are here today to ask for an increase in our annual funding. Over the years, the district has given us grants and aid, sometime, $1,500 usually was the regular one that went on for several years. And then finally we said, look, we really need some more support here. We're getting a lot of results, and most of our resources, all of our revenues come from the community. So we were able to negotiate a grant and aid, or not a grant and aid, a contribution agreement for $8,000 for 3 years, which ends in December. Today, we're asking for an increase in that to $20,000 because our impact in the community has grown, our demand has grown, and our results are really, I'm going to even say, extraordinary for the small organization that we are. So we're asking for $20,000. So we have a recommended resolution that the Committee of the Whole recommend to the board that the qathet Regional District enter into a new 3-year funding contribution agreement with the Savary Island Land Trust Society for 2027 to 2029, which includes the increased annual contribution amount from $8,000 to $20,000. So this is what we do. Our track record. And I mentioned some of this already, but just to sort of summarize, the Heart of Savary really was the really significant big piece that we did. It took us 22 years to accomplish that. And when we started, there was no protected land on Savary. Today, there's 400 acres that are protected. And of that, all the funding was raised on Savary Island. We raised $4 million to acquire the land and a $500,000 stewardship endowment for the Nature Trust of BC in 2018. And of the $4 million, the Savary Island Land Trust raised $1.6 million. So we have a really great support from the community, and they want to do what's right. And they also know that the density on Savary is insane. Okay, let's just say that. You can look on the other side of the map, and here you can see all the lots. Okay, it's an urban density from 1910. So our work is really significant, not just protecting ecologically significant land, but in reducing density, which is what we need. So, let's see. So 30 years of advocacy and land acquisition, 40% of the island's now protected. And of that, people started donating land to us because we were a charity in land conservation. And so we now own 24 parcels of land, 20 acres, all throughout the island. So our 3 pillars, conserve, of course, land acquisition, and rare ecology. Yes, that's important. And I can tell you pretty much anything on Savary is going to be recognized that way just because it's a sand dune ecosystem in the most endangered ecosystem in Canada. But apart from that, the density issue is what really speaks to every single Savary Islander. Every time we set aside a lot, that means less pressure on the aquifer, less pressure on the land, less pressure on the barge, on the wharf, on the first responders, and on the fire department and the roads. So conservation has a big role to play here. As stewards, we need to look after the land that we have, and so we have to set aside funds for that stewardship. So we've established a policy a couple of years ago where we set aside a minimum of $5,000 per parcel when we acquire a new parcel. And that's actually a requirement of federal funding so that we can get access to federal funds to acquire more land. So stewarding the land, looking after it, using the money that we have to, for example, if there's tree work that needs to be done or something that needs to happen on the land. And then our 3rd pillar, of course, is education. This is really critical and becomes more important all the time in a non-regulatory environment. The Savary Island OCP, as you probably know, is going to be aspirational, non-regulatory. This is going to double or even more our work because we protect Crown land as well. So for example, if there's no setbacks and there's no siting permits, then people can continue, as they have for a century, to build on Crown land on Savary Island. And we're probably the only ones that are going to report it. And it's a lot of time and effort to report these kinds of things. And so we need support to be able to do that, as an example. Okay. Oh, Rebecca, I'm not going forward.
Just 1 second. We've reached.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we okay with continuing on? I'm seeing thumbs up. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And again.
An additional 5 minutes each now.
Okay, so another 5 minutes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you, and I'm gonna be quick, because the others have to, or Braden is gonna say something. I think I've pretty much covered everything here. 24 parcels. Our most recent acquisition was the Cadron-Ralston Forest. And we're thankful to the regional district for a grant of $10,000 through the grant in aid process to acquire that parcel. That's the first grant that we've received for land acquisition, and we want to find out how we can do more of that. I've been communicating with Linda over the last year to try and find out where is the money and how can we access it. Okay, caring for the land in perpetuity. So monitoring, protecting erosion and water. Thank you for your investment in the water study for Savary Island. We've needed it for decades. We are the eyes on the ground. Education is the front line. Again, in a non-regulatory environment, all we can do is teach people or buy the land, which to me is the better approach. Anyhow, it's more effective anyhow. Education is great, and I've been an educator for years, and I believe in it. Sometimes people just don't know what to do. We need to help them out. So we do have some things that we've produced over the years, a driver's guide, and we have the Savary Island Best Practices Guide, because there are no rules on the island, so therefore these are the provincial rules and things that are in place that we produced several years ago. And, okay. Oh, SenseNet. So Doug was, our chief from Savary, was just talking about SenseNet. I've had the extreme pleasure of working with him over the last year on this project. And I can tell you the network on Savary is just tightening up so much. The work that we're doing with the fire department is really inspiring. We raised $400,000 for the SenseNet. So the technology, all the sensors that you see there, the cameras, the Savary Island Land Trust raised $400,000 for SenseNet in 1 month. So we have a lot of community support, and they really want action, and they come to us because we've got results in the past. So, okay, the community is committed to, so this just shows again where some of the funds come from, some of our different acquisitions, like the Heart of Savary, there were 150 donors, the SenseNet, there were 150 donors, the Meadow, there were 90, and the Cadron Forest, there were 20 donors. At our auction last summer, we raised $31,000 at the art auction. This is the funds that we use for our operating. And we raised $70,000 for the Cadron Forest. It's a community to save an island, so it's not just us. There's a lot of people involved, the Nature Trust, of course, the Friends of Savary, and the Savary Island Fire Department, and of course, the Regional District. I'm going to go on to let Braden take over from here to the next slide. Great. Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Looks like he isn't muted.
He's not muted, but he's having audio.
Oh.
You might just need to select another microphone that your audio is connected to, Braden. If there's a little part next to the button that says audio, you'll just need to choose a different microphone source.
It's happened to all of us.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can. Yes.
Wonderful. My apologies. My name is Braden Hutchins. As Liz noted, I joined the board this past year, and I'm excited on behalf of the board to speak to this presentation. Just a couple of notes on behalf of the board. Savary continues to densify. We're seeing that on a number of Gulf islands in the Salish Sea, but certainly on Savary, and certainly after COVID. Development has more than doubled in the last 20 years, and it continues to pick up. Liz has noted, rightfully so, that Savary has an urban density, but it is a sensitive and fragile ecosystem. There's been tremendous consultation done by the regional district for the pending official community plan, lots of great community input. But there is the concern for a variety of reasons that the pending official community plan will continue to be non-regulatory. And with that non-regulatory nature, along with the continued growth, there's the ongoing need for conservation, advocacy, and education for the public.
Hang
So
on one sec, please. Sorry to interrupt you. We reached the end of our 5 minutes. You guys good to go? All right, thank you.
If I could make one last comment, and this is not on the presentation, but I just want to acknowledge that this might be Liz Webster's last board meeting. She's done a tremendous effort this year. She's retiring, and I know I'm overstepping here, but on behalf of the board in a public meeting, I just would be honored to honor Liz for all of her hard work for Savary, for the regional district over the last 30 years, and she's done a tremendous job. So outside of whatever happens today, just a shout out to Liz.
Thank you for saying that. And Liz is certainly no stranger around this table. So does that conclude your presentation?
We'll respect your timeline, certainly. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present.
Okay, now don't go away because I'm sure directors will have questions. So now, directors, Director Elliott.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you everybody for, this is a lovely place map.
Thank you.
And I was looking at the map on the back with all the different lots, and there's one here, it says, as owner of the 5-acre parcel, also owns a share in the 35-acre strata. So that would be the light green strata with a kind of a 5-acre beach access, which is owned by the SLT.
Yeah.
Is the strata area developed as well? It doesn't look like it's slotted out like.
No, not on the, well, that development, actually, it's funny because that was initially that would have been developed in 50-foot lots. And back in, I believe it was the late 80s, one owner owned 70 acres and he wanted to redevelop. And so what he did is he made a strata. So, and at the time, the provincial law was 10 acres. You couldn't go under 10 acres. And so they made the 35-acre strata, which they all own a share of, and then 7 5-acre waterfront parcels. So we own one of them that was donated probably 20 years ago. The rest of them are owned and have cabins on them.
And then my follow-up question, when you're looking to acquire lands, are you looking to acquire anything available, or do you have certain ecologically sensitive areas that you focus your attention on?
Thank you for your question, Director Elliott. Yes, after the Heart of Savary, after we saved the Heart of Savary, the next task became establishing a land acquisition framework with criteria for acquisition. Because I mean, you could buy everything, but I mean, you just can't, right? You have to have, and so we established a scientific-based criteria for land acquisition, and that's what guides our acquisitions. And so things like, is it ecologically significant? Of course, that's important. Is it adjacent to something we already own or something else that's already protected? That's important. Are there any red listed species? You know, there's all of these kinds of criteria. And so that's how we choose an acquisition that we have to go out and raise money for to acquire. However, we also just receive gifts. And in those cases, we don't go through a big criteria. We haven't yet said no to a gift, but we may, you know, if somebody had a big garbage dump or something, then, you know, but, no, we have not said no to any gifts yet, but yes, there is a criteria. And there's also a strategy for what we want next.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. As you know, I've learned a lot here in the last 4 years about your organization. I compliment all of you, by the way, and the incoming people as well. First, I appreciate the ask on the first slide. We get a lot of different presentations, and it's very clear, right? So it's, you know, what the ask is, so that helps us. Just a couple of questions. Director Elliott stole my thunder about how you target acquisition, so I wanted to ask about that. And maybe the newly acquired lot, is it on this placemat or not? And what area of the island, just in case we were wondering?
It's not, because we printed it.
Yeah. Is it on the?
It's right beside number 7.
There you go.
It's just to the left of number 7.
Perfect. Just in case folks are wondering, that's the newest one.
That's.
Thank you. And then another thing you mentioned, you kind of touched on it, but you have the endowment fund, I think, is one of your main sources. And then I had a question around, like, and you touched on other sources, federal, like, your team must be constantly trying to work with other funders, right? And who would those be, sort of? What are the main mechanisms for land trusts like?
Okay, excellent point. So the endowment, and maybe I didn't use the right term there, but we raise the money and set it aside so that it can be there as a reserve to manage the land in perpetuity. That's what that is.
Glad I asked that question.
As far as other funds, of course, the province really doesn't have much in terms of acquisitions. There are some funds that we've taken advantage of to get some management strategies on our land. For example, we've got some funding for surveys for the land, like a legal survey, and then a biological survey. And then in 3 different situations, we've had interpretive signs prepared that are on the land that people can visit. So that's one of them. And then federally, right now we're in a little bit of a gap. I think in the future, we're probably going to be able to see more federal funds. It was a really rough go when we first applied. We had to apply we made 4 different applications, which the applications are extremely detailed. And it took us 4 applications to finally get $28,000. But now that we've got, one that's been approved, I think we're in better shape. Our problem with the feds is that we're applying for a parcel of land that's like 0.3 of an acre. And we're competing with people who are applying for hundreds of hectares across the country. So you can imagine trying to make the argument for like a 0.3 of an acre, 50-foot lot. It's challenging, but we were successful. We have an excellent biologist who has all the information that we need to make the ecological arguments. So a lot of, and really most of the funding for land has come from Savary Island. And since, I'll just finish on this note because I started with it, on August 22nd, we had our 31st birthday of starting the land trust at the hearing, at the regional district hearing. And Mr. Gisborne, your father was there. Just the other day, I received a call from one of our donors who would like to donate $31,000 to our land acquisition fund this year. It's going to double our land acquisition reserve, and he's giving it $1,000 for every year that we've been in existence, coming from the Armstrong Family Foundation. These guys didn't even know that.
He's like, what?
Okay, you threw it away.
No, that's, yeah.
Okay, I have Director Southcott, then Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. In more recent years, association with the Land Trust Alliance of BC, which is an amazing organization of land conservancies and land trust organizations all across British Columbia. I'm aware of how your work is respected, and so I guess in a way, it's not a surprise to me that you finally had some success with the feds, because you've been working at it for so long, and your success is truly inspiring to others, including our little Ellesmere Land Conservancy Society here in Fall River. My question is, do you use the federal eco gift program as a benefit to private donors? Is that your main mechanism?
I wish it could be. We have one ecological gift. The federal government at the time required that an ecological gift had to be at least an acre. And again, because of the size of the parcels, at the time we received a gift that was 3 acres, so it fit and it was fine. So we only have one ecological gift. And in my most recent conversation with the Ecological Gifts Program, it sounds like they're increasing their criteria now. It's maybe going to be 2.5 acres or 3. So we'll see what happens. We may have to see if we can get them to be a little flexible. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Director Southcott. Director Gisborne.
I have a very strange question. When land is acquired by the trust, what happens like with the property taxes? Like, do you have to pay them, or does it like I've always wondered.
Okay, so Mr. Gisborne, we do not have to pay them, and that's because your father was one of the ones who signed the letter that said that we did not have to pay them, and so we have never paid property taxes on our land.
Wonderful. See, I knew my dad did all kinds of things. I never heard half of the things he did.
I think there were others involved.
Yes, exactly. I'm just saying.
Because that was gonna be the big question, but like, how does that affect funding if you're like, you buy a property and then you have to keep paying taxes on it? But if you don't have to pay taxes, that makes things easier.
No, we have to pay insurance and, things like that, but we don't have to pay any.
That's my question.
Thank you, Director Gisborne. Anyone else? Director Elliott. Okay, so we're on round 2 now. Director Elliott.
Only if you want me to. The questions are kind of a little off the wall. I'm wondering if the province or anybody who handles land transfer taxes has ever thought to include sensitive areas like Savary as a place where land transfer taxes go directly to fund conservation groups. And if that structure exists anywhere in the province, or if you know of, I figured you
Not that I know of, but we're exempt from land transfer.
No, I don't mean.
No, I know what you're
So if anyone
You
within
can add
the
that.
Savary Island
Yeah.
is selling or buying lands, there could be a tax affiliated to fund conservation and land acquisition for parks in areas that have been sliced up, such as this one was.
Yes.
And recognize, to try and undo and acquire lands to.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I would love to know it.
It seems to be a practical way of trying to step back from where we've surveyed stuff up and hampered our ability to conserve.
Yeah.
That we would create a system for funding into the future. Backstep heading from that a bit.
Yes.
But I just wondered if I'm the only one who thought of that, or if that was out there.
I don't know I don't have any information on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing no further hands. So Ms. Webster, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
We appreciate seeing you again. Okay, directors, are there any unregistered delegations who wish to speak? Any unregistered delegation? Not seeing anyone moving forward. So we will carry on with our agenda then. There's no unfinished business. Correspondence. We have 8 items of correspondence. So I'm going to open it up now to directors. Well, why don't we just go through the list? Does anyone want to pull number 1? Okay, Lennox is pulling number 1, so that becomes 8.1. Number 2, that's something I want to pull. So number 3. Okay, Gisborne and Lennox. Number 4.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna be okay. Number 5. No one's fine. Number 5. Okay, number 6. Brander. Okay. Number 7. Elcott. And number 8.
We'll make it.
Okay, so now these are all 8 point whatever they were up to 4, and then it goes to T6 is T at 8.5. I mean, okay, so we are on 7.1. Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
8.1, I mean.
Yeah, thanks. Probably just more for staff. There's just a request here and suggestions about beach access. I haven't thought about beach access for all. I don't want to put our staff on the spot, but I don't know if we considered these locations. It's not my area, so I just wanted to know a little bit more. Or I guess the question is there any future planning for increased beach access in that area? That's the simplest way I can put it, I think.
Okay, thank you for the question. CAO, were you planning Mr. Devereaux to answer that? Or?
Yes, please, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Devereaux.
Hi, Chair. Through the chair. All of these areas were assessed when the original beach accesses were put in. The assessment included, an evaluation of the access, including the cost. And most of these high bank accesses were disqualified due to the cost of building, infrastructure down to the water line. So that was done. There is no plan right now for additional beach accesses, but that would be at the discretion of the board.
Okay, thank you.
And that can always come back. Okay, thank you. Anything else on that item, Director Elliott?
Future planning in general. We have park acquisitions. Would acquiring lands to do a beach access be part of park acquisition, or is there some other section of our business that is part and parcel with that?
Mr. Devereaux?
Yes, through the chair, all of our beach accesses are on Crown land. They are Ministry of Transportation right-of-ways. We have permits from the Ministry of Transportation and Transit to develop the beach accesses, and that gives us the right to clean, to build trails, to put in small infrastructure like steps, those kind of issues.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see a couple more hands. Gisborne and then Lennox.
Yeah, I'm just, something's coming up from my memory from a few years ago, talking to a resident in this general area. And it makes me think about the Volunteers in Parks program that we've got. And the individual saying like, hey, he wanted to go down and, build this. And Ministry of Transportation said, no, you can't do it. And I'm wondering, is there a possibility where the regional district could work with Ministry of Transportation and some of the local community members if, say, they wanted to do the work to build the beach access to, maybe save a few bucks? Or is it possible for the Volunteer in Parks program to do that? Or is that a little too far because of the liability of the slopes? And I'm just wondering, maybe there's an option there.
Mr. Devereaux.
Yes, through the chair. It's Crown land, so it is accessible to all citizens of British Columbia have the right to access that land. Once we talk about building on it, we would need to have insurance, those kind of things. I'd be very reluctant to have volunteers build structures over steep banks and then have the regional district have the liability on those. The Ministry of Transportation's permits, take all the liability away from them and put it on us when we have those kind of things. So.
Okay, thanks, Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. Just because again, flagging memories about these trails. If memory serves, the Sturt Road beach access trail in my area was decommissioned. Is that an accurate assessment? And what are we doing with that? just since somebody will ask me, because we were talking about beach access.
Mr. Devereaux.
Yes, through the chair. I wouldn't call it decommissioned. Okay. We removed the sign for safety reasons. The highway widening project was completed. It made that beach access inaccessible. Right. I've been working with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit to realign that access to get a safer entry point, because there is some wide right of way there below the road that we could put in a pull-out type thing further north and have a trail with less grade you could walk down to access that beach access. But like all things, it's come to funding, and the ministry has not come up with that kind of funding yet to build the access at that point. And I have no direction for us to spend that money to build what would be a significant improvement along the roadside. It's not just the trail. We would need parking.
Thanks for the refresher there, and I think I'll leave that up to me to advocate for that with the ministry. If anybody knows where I'm talking about, it's an aggressive angle and people can get hurt trying to just get down into our trails. So I totally understand what we did there, but I do think we should explore opportunities to improve access, because people use it, by the way. My brother lives down there now, so thanks. Appreciate the answer.
Thank you. Director Paul.
Very briefly, I would like to suggest maybe and as part of the new board, new director training, it'd be really useful to review this as part of the services, just in a sense, because it is a bit unusual that we have all these beach accesses that are on Crown land, and Mr. Devereaux talked about some information on costs. I don't need to know about it right now. Future board needs to know, how are they decided? How do you pick, what is the process? What's the cost in our budget? Just so people can wrap their mind around how new ones get created, how existing ones get maintained or not, or let go, and what that process is would be really useful because it's a little bit nuanced, and there's costs that could be substantial.
Okay, thanks, Director Paul. Seeing no further hands, let's move on to 8.2, the former 7.2. And directors, I'm sure you're familiar with the subsidies that are offered by the federal government to ferry systems in the Maritimes, which are not offered to us. And I'm asking if anyone shares my appetite for writing a letter to the feds and reminding them of this inequity, which is still out there and never been resolved. And because BC Ferries is struggling, they are, we'd like them to step up to the plate. So that's where what I'm thinking might be appropriate. So I would, you're pointing at Mr. Hackett, you have something to say.
Before you consider writing an advocacy or a question letter, so we should understand the history behind why there is a difference. The difference boils down to basically the Maritimes out east have a constitutional right to that funding because that funding is interprovincial. It connects New Brunswick to Nova Scotia, to Newfoundland, etc. Our ferry system was created to be intra-provincial. Therefore, there is no federal government obligation. It's by agreement. So basically, if you write them and ask them for the inequities, I'm afraid you're not going to get a very positive answer. They're going to make the historical concept right back at us. And in all due respect, I think this is a BC Ferries initiative to be trying to get more money out of their federal counterparts.
Well, very good point. I agree that it is a BC Ferries initiative, so maybe they're the ones that we should be going after. Director Elliott.
I was aware of the history and I do know why. Having said that, doesn't mean that it's fair to the British Columbians or Vancouver Islanders or people who are just as dependent on ferries as folks out the way we have a huge, large province that takes up the entire coast is different than in the East Coast where they have separate provinces to connect. I do think, however, it ought to be through the channels that are intended to advocate with the federal government, meaning that there should be a resolution that goes through FCM. And I think the cutoff for FCM resolutions is for this year. So maybe it should go on the docket for next year, which makes it seem like a big delay. But there's also a lot of elections coming up and people can rally around your MPs and MLAs anytime they want. I believe our community has been doing that and the message is getting through that way. But we as a government should use our official channels through FC. What?
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm aware of the history and how the ferry on the Maritimes are interprovincial going between provinces. One of the funniest ones is the one that connects Newfoundland with the mainland. It's about 2 kilometers outside of Labrador and in Quebec. And some people are like, well, that's actually a little bit further away from Newfoundland. It's like, well, that was so that they could make sure it stays interprovincial. And I think that this is something that we should be able to advocate on because this province, before it was a province, was actually 2 colonies way back in the day. It was Vancouver Island and the mainland. So our crossing to Vancouver Island would have been interprovincial. But the story I was always told was that it was Texada Island's fault because there was a gold shipment that was going down to Victoria, and apparently Victoria lost it. So then they had to amalgamate with the mainland, and it's not actually, it's more Victoria's fault. But that's because we have now 1 province rather than 2, whereas if we were still 2 colonies, we would have been 2 provinces, and therefore our ferries would have been interprovincial. And I don't think that that's really fair to the people of BC because like it's a high level administrative thing between the provincial government and the federal government. And when someone gets on a ferry and they're trying to get to their destinations, it's like we're all Canadians. So I do think that we should actually get increased funding, but I don't think we should be saying like, oh yeah, cut the funding to the East Coast. It's more of like, hey, we shouldn't be penalized because we're on the other side of the ocean, or the other side of the continent, and like we're all one big province, which technically actually makes it easier for Ottawa for us to all be one big province. But if we were like 3 different provinces out on the West Coast, then sure, we'd get funding for like Haida Gwaii and Vancouver Island and the mainland, but yeah, I think we should get an increase in our funding, because I do believe that there is some funding that comes out west, but it's primarily for the Trans-Canada Highway extension, which goes from Vancouver to Nanaimo, which is ironically the run that actually turns out to be profitable most of the time because they have such high ridership, whereas the rest of us are struggling. So I'm not opposed to sending a letter, but because it's kind of an initiative up and down the whole coast.
Okay. The reason I like sending a letter is just to remind them that we are still here and we are still struggling in spite of the rules that we recognize are in place. The existing parameters put a real hardship on our communities, which are very dependent. So that's why I feel pulled to do something about this. Director Foley, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I had a couple things I want to say, which is, I'm not against sending a letter, but I do agree with the CAO that we need to be clear, because I mean, of course, we can all agree it's unfair, this, the subsidization. Well, we're the ones who pay the price here, and we're not living in Nova Scotia, and we're not in Ottawa. But I think the constitutional reality of how things actually are matters. And in Ottawa, you don't get much sympathy if you claim something and they're just going, that's just different. They don't care about all the history, interprovincial, intraprovincial, and they just go boom. So I think a letter's fine, but I do agree with Director Elliott about advocacy through our other channels. And I think there could be 2 prongs. I think, and I don't know how to plant the seed for this, because this will be for future board, but a resolution going through FCM to target the federal government to look into this is one thing. But I also think this board could send a resolution to ABICC, UBCM to encourage either the province and or BC Ferries to do that advocacy themselves too, because if the province and BC Ferries were advocating and with support and backing and pressure from UBCM, then they would actually be well equipped to look at all the other realities of interprovincial and all that kind of historical stuff and make the case of why. Because the argument, I mean, I think the fairness argument is maybe less crucial than just the fact that we're struggling. BC is struggling, BC Ferries is struggling, and without a viable ferry system that's affordable, our economy struggles, and we need a strong economy. And if the federal government wants Canada strong, well, then help us do that, and just do something and just help BC Ferries stabilize their financial situation. So I think that'd be another way I think that this board could move forward with this, is to advocate through ABICC.
So are you making that as a motion?
I don't know if it's a motion to make. As I said earlier, I don't know I think that's for the next board to do, but I think, because we're not really there, but I think it would be something for whoever is on the board and whoever's talking to future directors to help them do that when the time comes. Because I don't have a resolution for that or anything, but
okay. I'd just like to ask our corporate officer for a moment. What are your thoughts on the right way to proceed to get our message out there that we consider this chronically unfair? What would be your recommendation?
It is too late to advocate at UBCM for this year, but it could be referred to that for next year, or to so I don't know which way will be most effective.
Okay. Probably at this late stage in the game, it would be more effective to leave this to the next board. But what trigger has to be in place so that this comes up?
Thank you. Refer the correspondence to staff for inclusion with the 2027 UBCM resolution, if that's a desire.
Absolutely. Thank you. Following this one, discussion on that.
Just to amend it to UBCM and FCM. We send resolutions to FCM that don't necessarily go through UBCM, is that correct?
Occasionally, yeah.
Because this one is an FCM.
Yeah.
As much as it would be.
Probably more.
Yeah. So I just wondered if we could massage that wording of it.
With the agreements for everybody at the table, you can.
Okay, so, Andrew, say again what you were saying.
Well, that, I guess what is referring it to, I mean, I don't know exact words, but it's referring the correspondence to staff to bring back with information regarding UBCM, the future AICC, UBCM, and FCM resolutions. And that way the future board would get that, and hopefully with enough memory of the staff and directors that are still here go, yeah, this was to remind us to think about this, and then maybe
that's a good trigger.
So there we go.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimous. Thank you, Director. 8.3, and I have Gisborne and Lennox wanting to speak on that.
Yeah, I'll jump in first. Let me just make sure I have the right correspondence in front of me. I've got too many tabs open. Yeah, this makes me think about when the Resource Recovery Center was in its early stages. There was a lot of talk about it being a one-stop drop. Some complaint here that, there's cans and stuff that people would like to deposit. And I'm just wondering, would it be appropriate to forward this correspondence to the Solid Waste Management Plan Monitoring Advisory Committee, which I know we now have new terms of reference. I don't know if it's actually been formed yet, but I'm just wondering if that would be the appropriate place to send this over to. Oh, I see Mr. Cohenhoven's on the screen. So I'm just wondering, would that be appropriate, or would it be easier to just say, hey, can we do a policy change, or does it make more sense to have a more in-depth look through our committee that is going to coalesce at some point?
Okay, we'll get you the answer to your question. Mr. Cohenhoven, welcome.
Thank you, through the chair. This request has come up before, and it's been brought before the board through a delegation before. We do have this on our work plan to come back to the board with a report on how this can happen. We can keep moving forward with that right now, or if you would like, we could pause and wait for the Solid Waste Committee to form and provide further direction.
I'm happy with no pauses.
Okay.
Keep on.
Thank you for that. Okay, Director Elliott.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Copenhagen. I don't want to slow anything down. Should the committee get up and running, though, wherever you're at, if they could be, this could be put on their agenda as well, at whatever stage you're at, that would be great. Because I do agree with the correspondent that it isn't all that friendly to have to do things completely separately. Yeah. And if someone's not looking to get their return money back and just have a place to leave it, it would be better to put it in a separate bin and have it maybe directed to some kind of charity or something, rather than being left in the bins that are not going to be returned. So I appreciate the moving forward part of it, not the waiting part of it.
Thank you, and you've been really clear about that. Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I echo the let's not wait, right? We do too much waiting. This is pretty straightforward, and it's actually cool when people are they want to actually be proactive. This is they're trying to support others. And I've seen the power of cans and bottles by jaws of life for Northside Fire before we got our act together 30 years ago. It was all on beer cans. I think I contributed a little bit, but let's get it done, right? So I really appreciate our staff just moving ahead. Thank you. No waiting.
Great, thank you so much. So is there anything further on that? Yeah, good.
No,
so yes, Director Lane.
Sorry, just a really quick thing. If one of the options in the end turns out to be some way to feed into charities that help with local projects and so forth, it could possibly be expanded to include big events where people want to contribute all the returnables from their entire wedding or whatever to a similar type avenue as well. That would be an excellent option to increase the amount of funds we can make available that way. So we can all contribute.
Yes, we can.
And that way many events would benefit.
Well, we just had a wedding on the weekend in my family, and we've bagged up all of our returnables, and they're heaped into the back of my truck, and we gotta find a day to take them back. If we could donate them to a cause, we might do that. Right.
Thank you. Okay, so we're good with that. So we're now on to item 8.4, Director Fall.
Yes, so thank you, Chair. Very briefly, I just wanted to point out, so the letter saying that UBCM won't consider this resolution. Now, I have two comments on that. One is the resolution committee, in my view, did not really understand the distinct nature of remote ports as per Transport Canada rules, because a remote port is a wharf that serves a community as their primary access point. And so they're saying it's the same as this other resolution, which is asking to review, the whole marine network as a whole and identify ports in general and so on. So it's very distinct, reviewing versus not trying to divest those specific lists. There's only about 30 or 40 of these. That said, when I brought the version, the resolution for AVICC before us at the beginning, it was to send it to AVICC and FCM. The addition of UBCM came at the request from the co-sponsors, Islands Trust. And so then we'd already sent ours to AVICC. AVICC came back to us and said, do you mind revising it so they're the same? Because now there were two submissions that were nearly identical. We agreed. And then now it's not a surprise in my mind that UBCM says, whether they say it's a repeat or whether they say it's not really our thing, because it's actually not their thing, that they didn't really understand remote ports. It's federal. So it's appropriate. That said, the second part, which is more important, I've had a fair amount of communication with FCM, which Arlen Kirk, our electoral area representative, and others at FCM, their policy. I think I've talked about some of them. It's going to be on the FCM agenda, and that's where it is appropriate for, and that'll help both advocacy. It'll help MPs, a little with help from our MP Gord Johns. That'll help get it to the right eyes, which is the Minister of Transport, Federal Minister of Transport. So we don't need to do anything. We just won't see it at UBCM. Just fine.
Thank you so much. Yep, and I probably agree with you. So we're now on to 8.5, which is the former 7.6, and that is Director Brander. You asked if people.
Yes. We got the letter from Ty Ullman here regarding circular economy, and pull up the letter. Oh yeah, it says we would appreciate the board's help sharing these opportunities with the Catholic community. And I was just wondering if staff has any ideas on how we can do that, because we support the circular economy and newsletters or just the social media or something. Is that possible? I don't think it really requires a motion. I just want to bring it to your attention.
And I think we have a comment from Mr. Goldman. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I'm happy to reach out to Ty and see how we can support this. I believe at a minimum we can certainly communicate it through posters and our website and social media. We, as the QRD, we did support this initiative, so it'd be nice to follow through and continue keeping the message out there.
Great, thanks very much. That's all I wanted to know.
Thank you. So we're now on to 8, the former 7.7. And that is Director Smith.
Just briefly, I attend Wildwood Ratepayers Association meetings. They have expressed concerns from local residents who allegedly see waste from involving asbestos, whatever, I'm not exactly sure. So suffice it to say, there are concerns, and I'm pretty sure they're going to either address those directly through the province or to Domtar. The chair of the Western or Wildwood Ratepayers was too busy, previously committed to be here to address this as an unregistered delegation, but I just wanted us to know that that's going on. Not a big issue, but relevant to the agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Selcott. Director Gisborne?
Yeah, just like maybe some clarification. If something like this was like in an electoral area, then maybe there's like something for the planning service, but this is not in the electoral areas, it's in the municipality. So I'm kind of thinking it's like maybe there's some crossover here with our solid waste management service, but it's not our asset. And I'm just kind of wondering, like I see the correspondence, I've read it. I'm just wondering, what is our role as a regional district in this? Like, if we did want to have input, like what input, like as a regional district? I'm just kind of curious.
Okay, we'll call on Mr. Coleman.
Thank you again through the chair. So all of the landfilling permits are managed through the Ministry of Environment and Parks. We have contacts that I could reach out to, but my understanding of this is that their monitoring has been in compliance with all the requisite standards that have been set for this landfill. So we are not asking for a different use of this landfill. We're not asking for it to be available to the regional district or any of those things. They are simply looking for an amendment to the type of monitoring that they have to do at this site. I believe it would be a much larger process. It would take some research for us to figure out what we want to be involved in, because at this point, it's just a notice between the landfill owner and the Ministry of Environment, who regulates the permit.
Okay, thank you.
So, to put it simply, as I understand it, it's essentially not our monkey, not our circus. Okay.
Really?
Having said all of that, they're executing a regulatory process and amending an official permit, which requires public notice. The purpose of public notice is to make everybody aware, and if they have reason to be concerned, that they would put those concerns into the regulatory body for consideration around whether they decide to approve the changes to this permit or not. And so there could be a role for the public or anybody who's being notified, which in this case is the qathet Regional District, to forward any concerns they might have with changing that permit. And so I am wondering if our own staff that pay attention to health concerns or what have you would have any concerns with changing this permit, and that's my question.
Okay, I'm not sure who on staff would address that. CAO?
Through the chair, I don't see, well, there's Mel.
Thank you through the chair.
Taylor, sorry.
Yeah, I need to look into that. I mean, in my scope of occupational health and safety, my big is employee, like worker safety. I'd need to look into that. I don't know if maybe that would be something Vancouver Coastal Health could help us out with.
Okay, thank you. You satisfied?
Well, unless in order for us to come up with an opinion from our staff, we can ask them to do that or not. That would be my next question.
Would we require a motion then? To do that? Okay.
And then is the board interested in doing that? I guess we could give a motion and see.
Okay.
So I would move that we ask staff for an opinion on whether we have concerns to submit or not.
Is there a seconder for that motion? I'll second it for discussion. So maybe clarify what it is that you're looking
for. The
for.
ministry is implementing a regulatory process whereby they're providing public notice about changes to a permit that's intended to monitor air quality. And what I'm curious about as the governing body that they've notified is whether we have staff that might have an opinion on whether that is something we should be concerned about or not. And so that if it is something we need to be concerned about, then maybe we make a submission through this process to tell them where.
So you're looking really for further information on whether this is something.
I'm not an expert on any of this, and so my question is, do we have staff that might have an opinion about this? Or
okay, and I believe we've had an indication, Ms. Taylor, that we do have staff. Is that correct?
Through the chair, it is not my expertise. It's not. I could reach out to those who would have more knowledge about that. Off the top of my head, I'm wondering, like our environmental officers at Vancouver Coastal Health might have some information they could share, but it's not something I'd be really familiar with in my role.
Okay, so if it's just reaching out, then do you still need a direction from this board to do this? Take that as a yes. Okay, who had your hand?
I did.
And Director Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I appreciate the discussion and wanting to have more info. I think from the correspondence, I know the folks that have written the reports, you know, they're open to any questions that you may have, and I understand the air permitting process that ebbs and flows over the life cycle of a mill. And now that it's no longer running, that's why I believe they're in this position. Good points about workers' safety. I don't believe that that's what this is focused on, our environment. And those tests were in place for very good reason in this town when we were moving ash from the boiler up the hill, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to avoid unnecessary work. If our staff has enough work, and I do believe we have the right people to answer the questions. My instinct tells me our staff that have any skin in the game, whichever department or expertise they have, would have flagged something already in this permanent application and brought it forward to us for our consideration, right? It's a pretty straightforward process, and so I'm not really in support of extra work. I think we can get the answers we need.
Okay, thanks, Director Lennox. Do you have a comment? No, Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I don't mind asking staff for a bit of a comment on this, but I wouldn't want them to spend a lot of time on it for the reasons Director Lennox said. I think getting a thing in this, but I have slightly different reasons, and that is, first of all, this isn't a formal referral. This is a letter from the proponent, Domtar. This isn't from the province. This isn't, they have, it's not that we've received a letter from the province saying we're seeking public input as a referral on this process, which would be more appropriate to do a deep dive into. This is Domtar. The offer is to send them comments. No slight meant on the company. That's sending it to the proponent. If if we do have actual concerns, it would be more appropriate for us to communicate that to the province. So I guess if we're gonna do this, what I would like, rather than a deep dive into the details, is I'd like staff to find out, is there a public process we just haven't found, received, or is it going to come up? Because if there's a formal process for us to respond, or the public to, public response to the application, that would be the appropriate way. I'm not saying a letter to Domtar is bad. They're not going to be formally obligated to consider it in the same way that referral from the province and a comment through the province would be, if that was the process in response to this application.
So I'm wondering, Director Fall and the rest of you, if it wouldn't be appropriate to refer this to staff and ask for a report back, which can encompass an opinion or whatever else needs to come back to the board. It won't be this board, it'll be the next board. Do you agree that that's the way to go? And if so, would you like to amend your motion to say that?
Well, yes and no. I think you're right. On the other hand, there's probably some lines here. And sometimes the regulatory process, and this would be one of those cases, requires a proponent to have a public consultation process as part of what they're asking for. And then those public consultations are documented, including concerns, and handed into the regulator. And the regulator then does get to consider what that has revealed. And so it's just a slight nuance in what you've been saying, and they might come back to ask for more based on what they're seeing in the processes. And so I'm not saying there's anything to submit at all. I'm just saying I'm not really qualified to say so or not. If there are no comments, it'll probably sail through without any scrutiny, and we're a government in charge of trying to do what's best for our people here. And so I just want to do that due diligence and find out if are we concerned or are we not concerned, and should we participate in this public consultation? That's the question I have. If we wait till the next time around, we've passed the window for providing comment. And so a simple check-in is what the motion's about. So I'm in favor of the motion as it is. If you want to defer it, it will miss this window.
Okay. I'll ask our corporate officer, can you please refresh me? What is the motion that is on the table? And then Director Gisborne, you're next.
So I have that the committee recommend the board direct staff to explore whether we have concerns. And then that's where I've ended. So.
Concerns regarding the
change
the application.
Yeah, the application to change it for air quality monitoring in the wildwood area. You can say all of that, but it all means the same.
Okay, and that's what you moved, and that's what I said. Director Gisborne.
Yeah, the motion is, asking our staff to find out if we have any concerns. And my concern with this motion is that the concerns, I think, should be coming from the board. Like, does the board have concerns rather than asking the staff to find out if we have concerns? Now, this site in particular, I'm thinking back 20 years ago when I was doing aqueous environmental chemistry. Its main concern at the time was that they're kind of putting fly ash there from their boiler, and one of the byproducts of fly ash is polychlorinated dibenzodioxins, which are a persistent organic pollutant, where if the fly ash is getting off the site, it can be picked up by deer or other wildlife, and it can kind of continue to transmit, and it can bioaccumulate in living organisms. So there's a big concern there when dioxins are getting, they're not being contained. Since the boiler is no longer operating, they are moving things, I believe, like asbestos and some other construction stuff. But asbestos doesn't have that same transmission vector of bioaccumulation. It's, usually once it gets into the dirt, the problem with, of course, asbestos is when it becomes airborne. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, I would like personally to see a continuation of the air monitoring, just in the hopes that at some point that site will get reactivated again and there'll be some more industry going on there. But my presumption would be that the provincial government has that at front of mind of like, hey, if there's going to be new incineration or if there's going to be new activity on site, that the provincial government has the experts. They have the folks that they know this stuff. And we're a regional district, and we've heard from our staff that it's not really our wheelhouse. We could ask for a report, but the report is asking whether or not we have any concerns. I think that's more of a political thing. And really, this is the provincial government's circus. It's their circus to handle. And this is correspondence from Domtar. It's actually not from the provincial government. And if the provincial government wants to reach out to us, I think that's the appropriate time to respond. But if the province isn't I don't really.
Speaking against it.
Yeah, I'm speaking against it because it's the motion itself is, do we have any concerns? And I don't think we should be asking our staff to find out if the board has concerns. If the board has concerns, we can pass the motion saying these are our concerns and this is why. So, thank you.
Thanks, Director Gisborne. Just my 2 cents is that we're asking staff because we don't have the expertise, at the director level. We're not experts in this stuff. So it's just to ask for opinions from people who know more than we. So that is the motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no hands, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, I'm seeing 3 hands. Those opposed to the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the motion is defeated. So we have done business arising from correspondence, and we're now on to reports.
No, sorry, not so lucky.
Oh, I'm sorry, I left that out. How could I do that? Silly me. Okay, Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully this is pretty quick through the chair, and I see Mr. Devereaux's ready to hopefully try to answer. I mean, you've read the letter, right? I've sort of been through this. Everybody's been through iterations of this as we tried to book. How can we revisit? Should we revisit? What are your thoughts on this correspondence? I don't want to put you on the spot, but obviously they're trying to come up with solutions. Do you think, when do we revisit this and how can we?
Mr. Devereaux.
Yes, through the chair, if I may. The campsite reservations policy was adopted by the board in 2019. And that filled a hole that was there about people booking and not showing up. And they established that one night deposit, $200 per campsite or per group site was sufficient. I've spoken with the caretakers, this concern from the camper, from someone booking 2 weeks of a book site. And while not common, it does happen. Groups book for 2 weeks. There's a family event in Powell River and they bring their trailers and they come for a wedding or, graduation, something like this, and they stay for the 2 weeks. Right. So, is 200 enough? how do we make it unaffordable for people? I mean, if the board would like to change the policy, they can task staff to report and ask them to reevaluate that. I'm a little hesitant to increase bookings, to go online, those kind of options. We have 3 million people that live in the Lower Mainland that like to camp and book provincial campsites overnight in one night. And we supply this campsite, the board, in my opinion, many years ago established this campground for local residents to camp. And that's why we don't have reservations. You take a risk of two ferries to show up and not have a campsite because you can't pre-book it. You have to be there to book it. So that being said, bylaw 327 we haven't done any real reviews of that in a long time. It's been probably 8 years. So
Okay.
the board, the board's discussion.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that. And the history, you're right, that it was created literally for locals as an alternate to Haslam and other areas. My quick follow-up is, this is the first time I've seen any correspondence or other, contact saying this is a problem. Is this a problem, or is it a one-off? I guess, over the years, is this a problem for people that they run into? That they feed back to us?
Mr. Devereux.
Yeah, as chair, I would not call our reservation or our group site bookings a problem.
Yeah.
Managing it, training new caretakers can be an issue, right? And we've had a turnover at Haywire Bay. Now we're on our third different caretaker in the last, say, 6 years, 7 years, something like that, right? So as they move through, there's little hiccups in, they wrote down the wrong date, or they messed up a year, or they didn't know the rule at first because they're still learning, but no major issues, and we've worked them all out over the years.
Appreciate your point on the online thing too. Thank you.
Yeah, the booking of campsites the group sites has not been an issue.
Very good.
Okay, thanks, Director Lennox. I have Director Elliott and then Director Gisborne.
So I think that the only reason you'd want to revisit whether the deposit is enough or not is if we're getting frequent people making reservations for a lot longer than they stay. So are people staying the length of what they have reserved, or do we frequently have people reserving for 2 weeks and only staying for one, let's say?
Mr. Devereux?
So in talking with the caretakers, this has not been an issue. Now, occasionally we'll have the group sites, it starts to rain, and they cut their trips short. Those kind of things happen, right? But it has not been an issue of booking and not showing, those kind of things. Every year, we probably take one deposit for, and that's the 4 group sites, the 2 at Haywire and the 2 at Shelter Point.
Thank you, Director Gisborne.
Yeah, loving the information that I'm hearing, and I'm also really happy to hear everyone around the table saying Haywire Bay was built for locals, because that's something I remember going way back, where people were camping up at Haslam, and the regional district said, okay, we got to find a way that people not camp at Haslam, so that's where Haywire Bay is for. Hearing also that there's been very few deposits and bookings on these sites also means that I don't think it's a high priority issue. Part of me, though, looking at the correspondence, saying, a 14-night group site reservation, current rate is $200 per night. But if they only have to give a $200 deposit, then it's kind of like you're booking for 2 weeks. And I know we're not talking about changing the policy right now, but if that does come up down the line, the one thing I would think is okay, if you're going to give a deposit, then it should be for the first night, and if you're gonna stay for like 2 weeks, and it's like, okay, then you gotta give like another $200 for each week. So that if someone says, I'm gonna stay for 3 weeks, and it's like, okay, that's $600. But then I guess I got one last question. How is our capacity at Haywire Bay? Because every time I go up there in the summer, it's pretty busy. And I'm just wondering, is there maybe an idea in the future to maybe expand the site if people are really loving it so much? I just saw your eyes go wide. Like, I was wondering, how is the capacity up there with the demand?
Zero.
The capacity for campers, it's pretty good actually. We don't turn many people away from camping. The biggest issue with Haywire is the day use and parking around the day use area. So on a Saturday afternoon, there's an extra 200 people type thing in the park because they're at the beach. They show up and they hang around the day use area, and the parking for all that, it becomes an issue because it goes back up the road. It creeps into campsites. We we have some backup parking up above, but no one likes to park there because then it's too far to walk down to the beach, right? So they're going with their kids and their stand-up paddle boards and those kind of things. So that is the biggest issue I have, or we have right now, and we're working on it, but there's no easy solutions right now because we've built out that campground to about the capacity we have. There's not a lot of room on the edges to add anything else.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought is if the park was ever to expand, we would actually have to literally expand the park because we're kind of at the edges. But yeah, that explains why it's always so packed whenever I go up there during the day. But that's something for a future board to consider of how to deal with the day amounts. Thank you, Chair. That's it for me.
Thank you. Director Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Very just briefly, it sounds like, we're not really wanting to contemplate changes, but I think monitoring problems over time is useful. And I trust our staff will do that through the caretaker and so on, like hearing, even if there are sometimes cancellations, but then if it's because of rain, that's really different than someone who, it sounds like people booking and then just case and then leaving it is not really a thing. But if that was, I would assume, I have confidence that our staff would bring that forward, our caretaker would notice that to find the most efficient use. Because making changes, you got to be careful. There is no perfect system. We're trying to find a balance that benefits people as much as possible. No reservations for the basic sites, reservations for the group sites, certainty and so on. And you got to be careful. If you make changes, you might cause other problems. But I think just being aware of the concerns, not that the letter writer has concerns that are valid, and I think just keeping that in mind, monitoring it, and if and when the board reviews it with information from staff, that can be tweaked. But I think what we've heard tells me that there isn't that the issue of having the deposits used isn't really the thing that happens very often. That we are having an empty site and we got $200 and then there's opportunity lost and revenue lost. That doesn't seem to be a big thing. So just want to leave it there.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Anything else? Seeing no hands, we will move on then to almost.
I was going to ask a point of personal privilege. Can we have a 5-minute bio break?
Sure.
Okay, 30 minutes.
5-minute bio.
Recording in progress.
Approval. Is there a mover for this?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Gisborne?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded. Discussion. Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. This answers one of the questions that I've been wondering for about 8 years, because every time I look at the map, I'm like, why are they part when they're not actually getting water service? But I do have a question in relation to this exclusion. In my opinion, it makes sense to remove them from the service area so they don't have to keep paying the parcel tax. However, at the planning service, of course, we have zoning bylaws, and there is a zoning bylaw that covers the water service. So I guess my question is, if the property is removed from the water service, will there be a subsequent motion in the future to also have them removed from the zoning bylaw?
Scale, would you direct that to? Okay, Ms. Reimann?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. I apologize, I hadn't actually considered that, but that might be something that I could direct to the general manager of planning services.
Okay. Ms. Dexter, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then, in that case, I'm totally fine with this motion, and I got just heard Julia's door. I'm totally fine with it, but I'm just also wondering that, like, maybe at the next planning committee meeting, we should put forward a motion to have the Myrtle Pond water system zoning bylaw be amended to also remove the property. And there will also be a similar motion for the 9.2, which is also on our agenda, about adding to the water system, because that property on 9.2 is not in the zoning bylaw.
Right. So those motions will be followed in subsequent meetings. So the motion we're considering today is what's in our report.
Mistakes.
Thank you. Through the chair, can you repeat the question?
Oh, yes. We're looking at item 9.1, which is the Myrtle Pond Water Local Service Area Boundary Map. So just to let you know, I'm all in support of having the property excluded from the Myrtle Pond service area. But the question is, there is a zoning bylaw for the Myrtle Pond service area. And if the property is being removed from the service area, then would it also make sense to have the property removed from the Myrtle Pond zoning bylaw?
Thank you through the chair. If that was the wish of the board, certainly they could amend the zoning bylaw. At this time, the property owners were in contact with myself directly in order to review subdivision options. And I believe that their request was simply to be removed from the water system because they could not afford to access it. And if they did want to additionally remove themselves from the zoning bylaw regulations, certainly I would direct them to send a letter to the board, or if the board wanted to make that direction today.
Okay. I guess my one question would be, would it be appropriate for the committee of the whole to make that decision, or would it be better to move it to planning committee later on in September? Because I think that the changing of the zoning boundary is not as time sensitive. So I would be fine with that coming up in later in September. If that's okay.
We're getting all right. Thank you. Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. This has made me think, actually both 9.1 and 9.2 are kind of opposites of the same issue, but I'm thinking ahead here to potential new water systems and how properties are included or not included. And my question is, I see on page 5 of 8, really totally understand how tough a position that the homeowners would be in, and that that's astronomical numbers. But how do we determine when we support inclusion or removal? Because what's the line? Where's the line? 10 grand, 20 grand, 30, you see, my question is Are we using any criteria to make a recommendation in this report to exclude somebody or to include them in the opposite case? It's gonna happen in London. It's gonna happen in other areas where we have people, like as an example, have a well, and now you're in the service boundary. Guess what? You get to pay. And we're gonna have this discussion, right? And we're gonna have to make a decision. I guess that'll be up to the board at the time. And it makes me think, how do we evaluate when somebody says, hey, I'm in this position? I'm wondering, because I can see what's coming. I don't know if there's Mr. Devereaux had his hand up. He's brave.
Devereaux.
Hi, Chair. I don't want to talk about future water systems or whatever, but this one case, this property is the only property in the service area that does not have service at the property line. Right? So every other lot in this service has the service at their property line. So, and this would require them to, build outside of their property, meaning up the road right of way, all those kind of things. So that's why the recommendation of exclusion came.
Thank you. I appreciate that delivery to service to your property line, because that makes a difference for people too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. 9.2. The boundary amendment for property addition. Correct.
Yeah, I guess I have a question for
Are you
us.
moving the recommendation?
A question before moving. Because when I read the report, there are two options. Yeah, here we go, property addition. One is that we could waive I believe the $30,000 fee. The other one is that we could charge the $30,000 fee. And I'm kind of thinking about a potential third option, and I'm thinking I'm really happy Linda Green is here because when I read the report, it says that the water infrastructure was run in 2008, but they haven't been paying like the parcel fee because they haven't been part of the service for the last 18 years. So I'm wondering if we were to say, okay, from 2008 until now, they had been paying the parcel fee, how much would that be? Like probably about 10 grand or 11 grand or something. And could we say that's the amount that you have to pay because that's what you would have been paying had you, been part of the service when the water line was essentially run to the property line. So it's not as much as 33,000, it's more than zero, but it's kind of finding that, middle ground of had they been part of the service this entire time and paying this entire time. So is that a possibility?
Ms. Greener?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. Yes, that is a possibility. The board could make that motion that that they contribute their share of the parcel tax that would have been charged since they were connected and till 2026.
Okay, and that would be from when the line was run in 2008 or from the 2019 when we gave the exemption, or would that be up to the board?
I would suggest that it would be from when they became connected to the water service.
Could it also be? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would say no. I wouldn't think it would be from when the when the line was run in front of their property, because they were never in the boundary.
Yeah. I think I saw the CIO nodding. I'm just wondering, is it an option to also go back to like the 2008 one? Because it'd be closer to like 10,000, which is better than 30,000. So, even if they're still having to pay, it's not as much. So I guess I'm kind of curious on the amount of going back. So.
Theo?
The chair, I think it all boils down to the will of the board. But during the break, the corporate officer reminded me that the reason they haven't paid anything to date is because we granted them access to the water system in order for the QRD to ascertain what would be a reasonable expectation of costs to hook up to the Merle Pond water system. It's as such, we've now got that report in hand before you have what the number is recommended.
And very much from the CAO, and I completely agree. We do have that number, which is the development capital inclusion charge, which is $33,000, which, you know, I remember the public engagement that we had where folks were saying, hey, I was interested in joining the system, but now that we see the bill, thanks, but no thanks. And seeing as how these folks have joined the system before we got that capital inclusion charge forward, if we were to say, hey, you got to pay, you know, $33,000, that might make people a little bit more upset, or maybe they might even say like, hey, we actually don't want to be connected to the system anymore and we'll just get a cistern. And I'm just trying to find like maybe a bit of the middle ground. So I'm wondering if getting the number of a parcel tax going all the way to 2008, which I think would be over 10,000, might be kind of like that middle of the road. And I'm wondering if that's a possibility.
Corporate officer.
That would be open to staff before further research with regards to that.
Okay, then I'll move that it be referred to staff with further research to come back with total parcel tax contribution going back to 2008 when the hookup was installed.
Okay, Director Follows seconded. Discussion on the motion on the table. Director Gisborne, you made your.
I just like more information.
Okay, fair enough. We got the message. Other comments? Seeing. We almost got away.
It seems like a really good motion, and I like that option. I just wanted to make sure I understood it a little bit. So the idea is, if this property had been included in the first place, how much would they have been charged between then and now? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, everyone clear on the motion on the table? So we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. 9.3 is a funding agreement renewal request from the qathet Festival of Performing Arts. And you have the recommendation before you. There's an and, so it's all one recommendation. So what is your pleasure? $3,000 annual funding.
Can I ask a question? Thanks. And I read the report, but I just talked about a lot today and I need a refresher. So in the motion, it says, of course, the increase associated with the provision of a venue for local amateur artists to compete, etc. Is it an existing venue that is costing more, or is it a new, like what about the venue? Is this what this is targeted is towards that venue? I want a little more info on the venue part.
The word is ambiguous. I would take it as being a vehicle for.
Yeah. Does staff know in their application specifically?
Who are you referring to?
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair. Sorry, I'm just going to look at the, but I think it was more about just providing the actual event, not specifically the.
Oh, I see. So
to provide the actual event, not specifically the location.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
When I see venue, I think location.
I'm not sure. It was for South Cotton Elliott.
Maybe just as a point of information, the city provided a value of $6,956 worth of grant in kind for the venue.
So that's, thank you. Thank you very much. That's why I asked.
I just wanted to clarify, the Festival of the Performing Arts does an amazing event which has local artists competing, sometimes even against themselves, but they're also juried by professionals, and they get opportunities to go to represent our community in our area in other.
That's a lot of fun when I was in it.
Going to the PC level and on up. Some of them end up fairly high up the chain. And so the city already provides the actual venue, but I think what should have been used rather than venue, but would be rather an avenue for. So it's the event itself, and they have people who come in and adjudicate these things. They have to bring them here, and there's a lot of expenses involved in that. So that's I think what they meant.
All right, so do we have a motion on the table? It's been moved.
Question.
Would someone like to move this recommendation?
I'll move the motion, but rather than 3,000, 1,500.
Second.
Okay, so 3,000 is now 1,500 in the motion. All right, and it's Director Lennox, second.
For discussion, yes.
Discussion.
I know the recommendation here is for 3,000. We have previously given 750. Going to 1,500 is doubling what they've currently been getting. But a quadruple it's a bit of a big jump. And I know funding is becoming increasingly challenging from provincial and federal governments. And I know there's only so much money to go around. So if we're going to be increasing these annual contributions, that when we get to our budget period, we're going to have to be increasing our requisitions for grants and aid to accommodate that. And I don't think I can justify major increases to Area B's grant and aid contribution each year. And it's a challenging thing, and I want to support it. So I think 1,500 does support it, and I think after a few years we can readjust, and hopefully the provincial and federal government start having some more money.
Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks. I'm actually going to speak in opposition to the motion. I totally agree. I'm all about saving right these days and affordability. But, you know, an Area A is going to pay the majority of this. If you look at the report, that's fair. I get it. And I know why. And I'm prepared to support this motion. And I mentioned it, Director Elliott started talking about it, and I sort of forgot because it's foundational. Like for me, I'll just speak personally, you know, getting up on that stage teaches you a lot. So I'd like to support the motion. Yeah. Sorry, the original one. Sorry, I'll vote in opposition. To be clear,
So
we can defeat it.
You were in opposition because you support the 3,000, not the 1,500.
Yes.
Okay, further discussion, Director Scott.
Yeah, quick question. When this goes to the board, which I'm presuming it will, city directors don't vote on it, so it's the electoral areas. Or do we all?
Standing committee of the whole, it would be
everybody?
It's going to be everyone. This is a contribution agreement, which requires everyone. I know it's funded through A, B, C, and D, but though it's not set up as a service of A, B, C, and D. So then section 2075 would be triggered, which requires if it's just one director, then all directors go.
Thank you.
And the motion can of course be amended at the board level. Anyone who has not spoken yet on this motion like to have a turn? No? Okay, Director Gitmore.
I'd like to move an amendment to change 1,500 to 3,000.
Okay. Speaking to the amendment, is it
Moneybag supports it, I support it.
Yeah.
It's a vote? We need discussion?
I'll just mention one thing, which is, I mean, the city is not going to pay anything, and I appreciate what Director Lennox says, but I do think 3,000 is modest. So I understand what Director Gisborne says, and I totally get it, but it's also for a big event like this, we've had the grants and aids that are way bigger. That's a really different scale. This one is modest scale, and if it stays in that, and in the future, maybe the expectation is that they're not going to come back in 3 years again. But I think 3,000 is a reasonable amount for such an event.
Okay, now we're voting right now on the amendment to change 1,500 to 3,000.
No.
Director Elliott.
I support the amendment, and I think this is a particularly awesome program. We supported it in a number of ways, and I think we're getting amazing bang for our buck on this one. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, can we have the vote on the amendment, please? And this is to go from 1,500 back to 3,000. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. So we're back to the main motion. We had enough discussion, or is there a need to say more? If not, we can.
Yeah.
Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks. Just I noticed, and I actually agree with it. There's the 2 points, the funding contribution, but then they organize and provide an annual reconciliation of how the funds were used. I see that's in addition to a couple of our recommendations lately, and I appreciate that. I think that is something these organizations do need to provide for us and the taxpayers. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Lennox. I'm putting myself on the speakers list. I would agree with you because I think in fact we should ask for reconciliations from everyone who receives a grant in aid to ensure that the money is being used for the purpose for which it was intended. So I just think it's a good practice. So I'm glad to see it here. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Okay, so now we are on to 9.4.
Right.
Savary Island Renewal Request, Director Leonard.
Yeah, so I'm going to cut to the chase and make a motion to refer this to next month's committee of the whole meeting. And if I don't know, do I need a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll speak to. So I really appreciate that we're getting to the heart of the matter. It's really about the money, right? You think about you know, what we have to make decisions on. But we have there's a lot of factors when we get into these agreements, and we have some upcoming in-camera business that could be relevant to it. And I think it's fair. We don't have any we do have a time constraint, but we don't have any urgency this month. The deadline is in December. So I think it's really smart business to really understand these agreements fully and then make our decision. So that's why I'd like to take just a little more time.
Yeah, Director Elliott.
I don't mind the referral motion. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be more appropriate to finance committee, and if not, then why? Or it seems to be a matter of money.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, I was going to support that and ask what it was said.
Probably timing wise, but I could ask our corporate officer, why is this on this agenda and not finance? And should it be referred to finance or the next committee of the whole?
We can refer to either one, I think would be appropriate.
Do we have a finance committee?
I was just going to say.
Yeah, we do. We have one.
I think.
It's coming up very quickly at the beginning of September, I believe.
Through the chair, that may not give us enough time.
Okay, so your motion is to refer it to the next committee of the whole.
If it's appropriate that we can deal with it there. I understand the finance point, but I think it's I think that's a more reasonable window.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone okay with that? So we will vote on 9.4. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, so now we are on to 9.5, Fund Community Society.
Yep.
Director Leonard.
I will move this recommendation.
Okay, and seconded by Director Fall. Was that you seconding it?
Yep.
Okay. Discussion, Director Leonard.
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, if you haven't checked out the Northside Rec Center, you really have to, because it's like, I repeat myself, but every week the little tweaks and changes are even making it better. The basketball net's in. Now the parking lot's paved. Thanks, staff. Thank you very much for that project hammered on all cylinders. So now we get to spend, try to find sources of funding for things like this. And the community out there they're not just, joking around. They understand music. They understand live music, entertainment, sound. And they're really aiming at a specific, group here for funding. And I want to do everything I can to help them. That hall is so cool that we can crank up the music inside. You can't even hear it outside, so it doesn't affect the neighbors. They're thinking of all those things, acoustic handling, and then the sound system goes with it. So it's a no-brainer to support their efforts. That.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on this item? Seeing no hands, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. 9.6, the interim financial statements. And I would like to start off by asking the question, why, perhaps our corporate officer, why it's here rather than the September the 8th finance?
I think I would direct that to Ms. Reimann.
Okay.
It might have been an issue of timing.
Ms. Reimann? So my question is why it's here instead of finance committee?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. A discussion between myself and the corporate officer were that there should only be specific things going to the finance committee, such as the financial plan, the financial the audited financial statements, the financial SOFI financial reports, and routine business such as the interim financial statements should come to the committee of the whole.
Thank you for the explanation. Would someone like to move this recommendation? Director Fall, second Director Elliott. Any discussion? Director Fall?
So this is just for item 1, because I guess there's no and between them. Is that
right?
Yeah. So I just want to, I was wondering why it was here too, and I also thought maybe because there's no finance committee in August, so it's timely. I think I just want to express appreciation for these. They're always clear, and like we talked about at the hospital district, it's nicely laid out. We know exactly where the changes are, and unless the financial manager says otherwise, and I think from the report we're all on track. Everything's fine, other than the items that were identified that need some amendments and that were flagged, and I think they're all reasonable expectations. So happy to pass it.
Ms. Green.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, I just wanted to mention to the directors as well that one other thing that has come to light since I wrote this report, in the Northside Volunteer Fire Department, we did have a large expenditure for a vehicle repair. So that service, I've already flagged that service as a concern, so that will just add approximately $15,000 to the projected overrun in that service.
Thank you. All right, we are talking about item 1 under 9.6. Director Gibran.
Thank you. And I always love getting interim financial statements because it's like we plan our budget, but then where is the actuals? My big question comes with the Myrtle Pond water system and the new well, which appears to have gone over budget. But when I take a look at like item number 2, where we're moving to change some of the grants and legal services budget, do we also need to pass a motion about changing the budget for the Myrtle Pond water system for the roughly $20,000 of additional funding that's needed for that well? And I guess the follow-up question is, if we do need to change that, is it possible to use some community works funds to kind of finalize that project? Because I believe we've used community works funds for the majority of that well currently, and I'm wondering, so that's 2 questions. Do we need to change the budget for the well? And if so, can we use community works funds?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, I'd like to ask the General Manager of Operational Services to answer that question, because he does plan to come forward with a report at a later date.
Through the Chair. Yes, thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, I'll come back to the board shortly. There's still a trickle of consultant reports come in. We just finished up the final for the construction plan with Vancouver Coastal Health. So that came in. We did go over budget. Our estimate that came in from the consultant was a little under estimated for the mechanical and electrical. And there was some additional costs because there was a hurry on this. We actually had to fly in some parts from Eastern Canada. They had to fly in from Toronto. So added extra expense in freight for some of the pumps, or the pump that went into that well, some other issues like that. So we'll come back to the board with a budget amendment for that project. And I'm hoping for October or November, or not October, but November, because of the timing now. And as for the community works funding, that would be the discretion of the board.
Okay. And just want to say a big thank you, because every time I drive by the Myrtle Pond water system, I haven't seen it go above stage 2 water restrictions. So that means that the well is working, and I'm just happy to see that. So, oh, I see a hand. What, is there something wrong?
You never wrong?
No, I just want to clarify that stage 2 water conservation is from the Myrtle Pond Water Conservation Plan. July and August are always in stage 2. We have a good supply of water. That well is producing very well so far. Very, very well. We're very happy with it.
Fantastic news. Very well. Ho ha ha. Dad joke there. Thank you very much.
We can move the discussion along, because we also have a long in camera, potentially long after this. Director Elliott.
So I just wanted to make sure I understood this. The $15,000 going from legal into consulting. The original consulting.
No, we're only on item 1, which is.
I thought we moved on.
No, there's a period after
Okay.
entered in the minutes and file. So number 2 will come up shortly, which includes the other
number
paragraphs.
3 is the one.
So it's just number 1. Yeah.
My apologies. Carry on.
No worries. Director Lang.
Yep, thanks. Just a quick question, just because it's appreciate these reports. It stood out in yellow, page 7 and 108. Maintenance, facilities, salaries and wages, just a variance there. What's a CSO? Is that a construction safety officer? What's a CSO? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. The CSO is just an acronym for Community Services Office.
I was way off track. Thank you.
Okay. Just the location.
Okay, anything further on item 1? Seeing no hands, all in favor? Any opposed? You're in favor? Yes. Okay.
I was slow.
Very unanimous. All right, so now we're on item 2.
Item 2, which is all 3 clauses.
Thank you, Director Fall, is seconded by Director Southcott. Discussion?
Question.
Okay, I saw Director Gisborne for sending Director Elliott.
Hand it to Director Elliott, she might.
Okay. As you wish.
We're just back to the question. I was trying to make sure I really understood this, moving the 15,000. So we had some consulting that was scheduled to be finished in 2026 and it was in the budget, but we still have to move 15,000. Does that mean it was 30,000? Or I was confused by the wording in the report.
Ms. Green?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. That was work that was started in 2015 or 2025, but wasn't completed. And it inadvertently wasn't added to the 2026 budget as a carryover. So there's enough funding in the budget, it's just in the wrong category. You know, there should have been 15,000 added to consultants budget to do that work.
And the follow-up, I understood our legal budget was bigger to accommodate what we expected in increases due to FOIs and stuff that have been trending upwards. Is that not a concern? Or did FOI come from legal?
Sorry, this is planning services legal.
Oh, okay, carry on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Gisborne?
Yes, the housing capacity grant and the $25,000. And I see Julia Dykstra's up there, Manager of Planning Services, who can help me with this. I recall that we did the housing capacity analysis, and I'm just wondering, can you remind me on what this is all about and why it needs additional funding? Like, what else are we doing?
Ms. Daisha?
What does it cost?
Thank you through the chair. So similar to Ms. Greenan's response, the carryover of this project from the end of December to the spring just was a budget line that was not carried over into 2026. That funding is still there, the grant funding and the unspent balance is still there. We just have to properly allocate it to the appropriate budget line.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question through the Chair for Manager of Financial Services. So as we note on page 4 of 108, there's a lot of expenses from Northside Fire Department related to the Crowther Road fire. Understandable, you have a big event. Expensive, but we don't have any budget amendment at this time. We're dealing with the other budget amendment, and we already talked about Myrtle Pond. So the question through the Chair is, can we expect a budget amendment for that, or in the future, or is that going to be needed? Is that something just as the costs finalize, or is this something that'll come up later in the year?
Ms. Greener?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. No, we don't really have anywhere to, I've talked to the Manager of Emergency Services, and we don't really have any underspending that we can reallocate to that cost. So we think what it is just going to be an unanticipated cost that will have to be recovered with the 2027 requisition.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? All right, seeing none, we will vote on item 2. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Which brings us to new business. There is no new business on the agenda. Question period.
Hello, Chair Galinsky from the Peak here. I don't have any questions today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Anyone else? Questions? Seeing no one jumping forward, we do have a in-camera session. Director Elliott, are you moving that? Okay, seconded by Director Gisborne. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We're going in camera.
think, even though she's been at this for a long time.
Of course, I couldn't call myself.
Recording in progress.
You interpreted.
We are back at Committee of the Whole. We have no rise in report, so this meeting is adjourned. Thanks for joining us.
Similar.